Lesson 3, we've done the sea. We've had a first go at the sea and the sky. We've got paint all over the canvas. Now we're going to move on to the object. Like I said, it's like the West Pier. I've been working on a bigger version. It's quite a bit bigger. You can't see how much bigger it is. It's 4 times the size. And that's oil paint there. So I'm using it. I've used a photograph to get to the point that I have with the oil. I've painted the West Pier quite a lot, so I'm quite familiar with its structure. Although, having said that, everything changes with light, the time of day, the way that you feel, the way it's changing all the time. So that's another reason why we put layers and layers and layers of paint on, and it's just the same with oil in a sense as it is with acrylics. It's just that acrylics is really useful because we can get an image down quite quickly, and we can build on that. So like my process is that I will get like a basis of the image in acrylics, and then I put oils on top. So the advantage for me is I'll take you to a point where you have like an image in acrylics, and I can go on and then put oils on it for a finished product, because that's what I sell as oil paintings. And that's the way I've developed to work. So the great thing about acrylics too, if you get through all of these modules and these classes and you end up with what you think you're not happy with, you can paint on top of it and on top of it, just keep doing it until you feel happy with the image. So it like takes a lot of weight off your shoulders. It means, actually, to a degree, you want to get to a point where you're happy with it. But at the same point, you want to listen to what other people say. So I'll talk about that later on in the next module. So I'm going to put some dark colors on, start to map out my main image, which is, as I said, is this West Pier. I'm going to use like a dark blue by putting reds and stuff in. I'm using my plastic pots that I've shown you. Like, I've got 2 plastic pots, and I've still got the paint that I had a couple of days ago, and it's perfectly fine. So I'm using a darker blue to mark out this West Pier, and it is marking it out. We're still really loose. It's the first layer of paint still going onto the canvas, so it's early days. Please don't worry. And so again, I use the straight arm. I'm using this image here to help me sort of find out what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it fairly sort of central. I've got the first part of the structure, and this was on the photograph actually, that the first part of the structure was in line, perfectly in line with the horizon, which is quite convenient. So whatever painting you're doing, whether you're following me or like you're working on your structure, building, tree, or whatever it is, it's just time. What I don't want you to do is really, really try and be particular about where it is. But at the same time, there's some focal points that you'll start to identify. You won't identify immediately because you're learning. But gradually, if you do more and more paintings, you become more confident at just following your feelings and looking at what you see and just following what you see. So I've got a line there, which is, if you like, it's my main focal point. Then, so I've got like 2 tiers of this structure above the water. And the thing with this originally was an old Victorian pier and domes were in fashion. So everything had sort of curves and domes. And sort of in Brighton by the sea in the UK, it's a common sort of, we know about the dome sort of thing in the UK. It was a common thing in Victorian times to sort of have these dome type structures, even back to like Crystal Palace in London, where there was the famous exhibition in the 1800s, the Queen Victoria and Prince Albert Crystal Palace. That was all sort of dome structure with metal supporting it. Of course, it isn't there now, but an extraordinary engineering feat. So, like the design of all these was like domes and stuff. So it gives me a. So really, what I'm just trying to do, and I'm trying to not. I'm trying to get a rough idea of where this structure is going to sit. So, I mean, on our first painting of it, it will just sit on top of the paint, and look, you think it kind of looks a bit strange, but of which, of course, it does, because that's great. You start to look at it, and but you start to make a relationship of what it looks like, and you know what you want it to look like. So it's going to sit on top of this other paint, and our job is to make it all congruent, which I'm starting to do with that painting with the oils now. I'm starting to make it congruent so it looks like a structure in the water. But the trouble is, we tend to be impatient and we tend to want to have that sort of effect straight away. It won't happen. What we're doing is just mapping out where everything is. It's part of a process. It's part of a process. But you don't have to sort of measure you can if you want to, but actually to measure everything and get it all exact and everything, it's a different style than what this is like, it's kind of impressionist, but then again, it's more about just following what you feel you can see. So with the acrylics already, it's now there's quite a big, because actually at this end of the pier, this part here is in fact, there's quite a gap, but depending on what angle you look at it, you either see it or you don't. The important thing is not to be led astray by what you know to be. You might think it's the truth, but what you see and what is the truth can be two quite conflicting things. And what is the truth, or what is the reality of the structure, isn't what you see. What you need to paint is what you see. And that's half the trick, really. That's why it's a painting arts practice, because we're always practicing. We're never gonna, there's always going to be more that we can improve on. There's going to be so much more that we can do. So I'm just getting some lines down. It's turned fairly green for some reason, quite sure why. Just getting an idea where it is, not worrying about it. I'm going to put more paint on it. In fact, I'll end up putting oil paint on it as well. It's quite popular, this structure. So I'm not going to do much more than that at this stage. Just give me an idea where it is. That's all we need to know. So all I need to know is It's the curviness of it that I really. All we need to know is roughly where the object's going to be, and that's it. Leave it. Don't fiddle around with it. Once you go, well, yeah, I've got it roughly where it should be. I've got roughly the shape that I need, whatever it is that you're painting. This is all we need to find out. So it's one iteration. That painting over there is like quite a way advanced. It's got, there's been a lot of stuff happening to get to that point. This is just literally got one bit of paint on the whole thing, and you can kind of see the difference, but you can see that you've got something that you can work with there. And it took me how long? No time at all, really. And it will become the same for you. So it's really good to work in the acrylics because you can get a result really, really quite quickly in a few days. Maybe it'll take a couple of weeks. So you've got an image that you'll kind of go, oh yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to do. And that's the start, really. So what stops us is actually starting. It's getting started, isn't it? Actually, as you see it, I haven't done any, I haven't arrived from outer space. I'm not floating on a particular cushion or something. I've just looked at what I'm painting and put some marks on the canvas. So it's exactly the same for you. Please take confidence in that. And I'll see you on the next lesson. Thank you very much.